Alright, so my name is Toxie Tootin. I did my final project over primate locomotion. We'll be talking about the types of locomotion they use, how they accomplish it, and their adaptations that they use specialized for their locomotion. Alright, so first we'll start off with the origin of primates. So primates are defined as eutherian mammals constituting the taxonomic order of primates. They're difficult to associate with a single unique characteristic like many other animals are, but instead many scientists used or diagnosed primates using a primate pattern is what they call it. This refers to traits such as nails, clavicles, placentation of fetus, orbits encircled by bone, at least 3 tooth types, so things like how we talked about in class, the incisors, canines, molars, premolars. Let's see, posterior lobe of the brain, a calcarine fissure of the brain, opposable thumbs or big toe, because they have on hands and feet, they have an opposable thumb or big toe that they use as well. A nail on the big toe, a well-developed cecum, a pendulous penis, a testes within a scrotum, and 2 nipples within the pectoral region of the animal. This is because it is believed there is no single unique trait to primates, so instead, like I mentioned, they use a series of specialized traits, or not specialized traits, but a series of traits that many other animals have, but they use them in sequence with each other or in tandem. However, the primate pattern can still be very vague or varied, and this is because every primate's not the same. They may have 3 of the traits. Some may have 4. It just varies very what I'm trying to say. It's very varied and can be difficult to show. The first primates are estimated to have come around about 85 to 55 million years ago from the first primates, terrestrial mammals, or first small terrestrial mammals which adapted to living in trees of tropical forest and environments like that. So the characteristics of primates. Primates are very complex. They have many adaptations that allow them to survive in their environments, and not even just survive, they thrive. These adaptations include large, well-developed brains, allowing them to be able to do very complex tasks and show very complex behaviors. You can see examples of this in things like their community building that they have. You see a lot of primates stay in tight packs that they have. And then also the brain goes along with their digits and stuff. They've been known to use tools at times, and not very complex tools, but things like sharpened rocks and different things like that. Visual acuity is another adaptation, and that just means they have very good eyesight and can recognize small details in their environments. And along with visual acuity, they've also developed color vision, which is very similar to us, and it just adds an extra depth to their visual acuity by allowing more complex recognition by color. They also have a shoulder girdle, which ties along well with their locomotion, and we'll get to the type of locomotion that this is associated with a little later. It allows them to have a wide range of movement in the shoulder joints. And then lastly, they have very dexterous hands, which allows them to do the complex tasks such as swinging, grabbing, etc., or even, like I said before, using the specialized digits to use their makeshift tools or whatever else. All right, so the structure of primate limbs. Primates are very versatile in terms of adaptation of their limbs. As I said before, they have 5 digits on each of their limbs, so hands and feet. And unlike us, we have opposable thumbs here, but not on our feet. They do, so they can basically just use their feet just like their hands. On each of the limbs and digits, they have keratinized nails. The keratinized nails are specially adapted because instead of like claws, which would kind of hinder their ability to grab onto things, it went back to nails like we have, allowing them to be able to easier grab and manipulate things. They have very sensitive pads on the tips of their digits, and this allows for extra sense of texture that they can feel and just extra recognition. As I mentioned before, they have opposable thumbs on their hands and feet. Along with those features, they have a collarbone, which is part of the pectoral girdle and the shoulder girdle. And this allows, like I said, the shoulder joint to have a very broad mobility, tying along nice with their locomotion. They're very strong for their size, and this allows them to use all of their limbs for locomotion, so hands, feet, and even in some cases where they still have it and haven't lost it, their tail. All right, so locomotion in primates. Primates use many types of locomotion. They're not limited to a single one or not held back by a single one. So the types of locomotion that they do use are brachiation, bipedalism, leaping, arboreal locomotion, knuckle walking, terrestrial quadrupedalism. So I'll explain the types of locomotion that I just mentioned, and then I'll relate them to how the primates use them. So arboreal locomotion is locomotion of animals in trees, meaning climbing, swinging, etc. Examples of this type of locomotion are obviously primates, leopards, anteaters, sloths, and many more other types of animals. And it's a very broad spectrum as in terms of animals in trees. So there are specializations or subdivisions of this that I'll get to in just a minute. Brachiation, like I just said, is one of the subclasses of arboreal locomotion, and it is defined as animals that specifically swing from trees using their arms and their legs. Going into more detail on brachiation, there are two types of brachiation, and one is called continuous contact, which means moving at slower speeds, but maintaining constant contact with at least one hand, at least one hand. So, like for instance, when you see a primate swinging, they'll grab onto one, or their handhold or whatever, swing to the next, grab, and once they have this handhold, they will let go and continue to swing. This type of brachiation is good for, it uses less energy and allows them to, I guess, move for longer periods of time, and they don't have as much of a risk of like falling or things like that. The second type of brachiation is ricochetal brachiation, which means they would move at faster speeds, and it's differentiated from continuous contact in that ricochetal has a distinct flight phase, is what they call it, in between each handhold or point of contact. It uses more energy in terms of catching itself because they have to swing, let go with that hand, go into the air, grab another handhold, and catch themselves. So it does use more energy in terms of that, but it is obviously faster. Examples of brachiation in general of this locomotion are obviously primates like gorillas, and then many monkeys like gibbons, siamangs, etc. All right, and then here are the other types of locomotion that I mentioned. So bipedalism, this is very self-explanatory as you might think. This means animals where an organism moves by means of its two rear limbs or legs. Types of movement included in this locomotion are walking, running, hopping, and any other thing where they use their back legs. Humans are obviously probably one of the first examples you might think of with this. Other examples may be like ostriches, and then some, obviously like a T-Rex or something in prehistoric periods, they obviously walked on their rear legs. So that would technically be considered bipedalism or bipedal locomotion. Quadrupedalism is just very self-explanatory as if you think about it again, because it's defined as animals which use all four limbs, both their front and their back. when moving, and obvious examples of this would be horses, dogs, cats, etc. Leaping is a locomotion defined by an organism propelling itself along a ballistic trajectory. It's differentiated from running, galloping, and other gaits by the body being temporarily airborne for a longer amount of time than hopping. Examples of this are when animals such as deer jump across a road or a fence or things like that, or examples like kangaroos, obviously, or rabbits. Lastly, knuckle walking is a form of quadrupedal walking or quadrupedalism, in which the front forelimbs hold the fingers in a partially flexed position. So they would walk by flexing their knuckles just like this, and then they would walk on top of those knuckles like that. This allows for them to press weight down on the knuckles, and obvious examples of this, like you've seen pretty much anywhere, any zoo videos of them, anything like that, you would see examples of gorillas and chimpanzees. So how do these types of locomotion relate to primates? Well, primates are very unique in that they exhibit almost every single type, or pretty much every single type of locomotion I just mentioned. They move because of brachiation, bipedalism, leaping, arboreal locomotion, quadrupedalism, climbing, and knuckle walking. They use all of these thanks to the adaptations in their body, including, like I mentioned before, the 5-digit limbs, the opposable thumbs on both their hands and their feet, keratinized nails instead of claws, allowing for more grabbing and less, just the claws inhibit the grabbing process, so they develop nails instead. And their specialized collarbone going along with the pectoral girdle and shoulder girdle that they have. This helps tremendously with survival and is a major reason why they're very successful in their environment, or successful in the wild, and they don't just really survive, they thrive very well in their environments. And then this is just my works cited page. That's it.